So, when you think about the great ancient empires, your mind probably jumps straight to Egypt, maybe Babylon, right? But there's this other massive power that shows up kind of late in the Old Testament, the Persians. And they did something totally different. They didn't just conquer people, they created a whole new and incredibly lasting blueprint for what a superpower could be. So, how'd they pull it off? I mean, think about it. Most empires back then were, well, they were brutal and they didn't last very long. They were built on fear, and that kind of thing always crumbles. So it makes you ask the question, how did the Persians manage to build an empire that was not only the biggest the world had ever seen, but that also created a model for governing that people would copy for centuries to come? Well, the answer lies in a complete radical shift in thinking. Before the Persians, you had empires like the Assyrians and the Babylonians, and their playbook was pretty simple: rule through sheer terror. You conquer, you enslave, you destroy. But the Persians, they pioneered a revolutionary new strategy, a mix of incredible tolerance and really sophisticated propaganda. They wanted to win the hearts and minds of the people they ruled. And the architect of this whole new approach was this guy, Cyrus the Great. In 550 BC, he overthrew the Median Empire and started a new Persian dynasty. But that's not even the most important part. What he really did was establish a completely new philosophy of how you rule people. Now, you're probably thinking, a guy who builds an empire that big must have been a military genius. And yeah, he was definitely a brilliant commander, no doubt about it. But his true power, his most revolutionary and effective weapon, it wasn't his soldiers. It was propaganda. Seriously, at a time when other rulers just, shouted about how mighty they were, Cyrus mastered the art of messaging. When he decided to take on Babylon, he didn't just get his army ready. He launched this brilliant campaign to convince the Babylonians themselves that he wasn't coming as a conqueror, but as their chosen liberator. This whole liberator model was just genius. It turned people who should have been his enemies into stakeholders in his new empire. Instead of stamping out local traditions, he supported them. He let local kings stay on as his governors. He used Persian money to rebuild important places like the temple in Jerusalem. And he brilliantly made friends with the local priests, like the priests of Babylon's god Marduk, who, by the way, already couldn't stand their own king. And we don't even have to guess about his messaging. We have it right here, carved into what's called the Cyrus cylinder, after he took Babylon. Just listen to how he frames it. I brought relief, putting an end to their misfortunes and slavery. He's not a conqueror. He's a restorer of order, a champion of the people. This is an absolutely incredible piece of political marketing from 2,500 years ago. So if Cyrus was the visionary, the big idea guy, then his successor, Darius the Great, was the master organizer. He's the one who took Cyrus's grand vision and built all the complicated machinery that allowed this massive multicultural empire to actually work and to last for 200 years. And the things he put in place feel amazingly modern. He divided the empire into 20 regions, or satrapies, and often let local governors run them, which gave people a sense of autonomy. He created a single standard currency to make trade easier across this huge area. He built the famous Royal Road, and with it, the world's first real postal system. And crucially, he had all the local laws written down and standardized, which brought predictable justice to hundreds of different cultures. In fact, that postal system, with the Royal Road and the network of riders and relay stations, was so incredibly efficient that it became the direct inspiration for the American Pony Express more than 2,000 years later. Now that is a legacy. But of course, this successful formula wasn't going to last forever. And that brings us to Darius's son, Xerxes. Yeah, the guy from the movie 300. He represents a major turning point. He started to abandon the very policies of tolerance that his father and grandfather had used to build the empire in the first place. Remember how Cyrus made a big show of being a friend to Marduk, the god of Babylon? That was a smart gesture of respect. Well, when Babylon revolted under Xerxes, he didn't just put down the rebellion. He confiscated the temple's land, and then he melted down the sacred golden statue of Marduk. It was a complete reversal of policy, from strategic respect to just outright humiliation. This whole shift in attitude really set the stage for Xerxes' famous invasion of Greece. And it leads to that question we all know from the stories. How in the world did a handful of Greek city-states manage to defeat the largest army the world had ever seen? Well, the answer wasn't about numbers. It was all about the quality and the motivation of the soldiers. The Greek hoplite was basically a walking tank. He was heavily armored and a battle-hardened veteran because the Greek cities were always fighting each other.
The Persian army, on the other hand, was huge, but it was mostly made up of lightly armored guys drafted from all over the empire, plus a bunch of mercenaries. So the Greeks were fighting for their homes. A lot of the Persians were just fighting for a paycheck. And that makes all the difference. So what happened after Xerxes failed in Greece? Well, the empire entered a long, slow decline. You started seeing a lot of court intrigue, assassinations, the central government got weaker, and the rut just set in. And it all ended with its conquest by a brilliant young king from Macedonia.
So you have Cyrus founding the empire, Darius organizing it, Xerxes overextending it, and then finally Alexander the Great conquering the whole thing in 332 BC. Now, for most Western history books, this is where the story of Persia just ends.
But that's just completely wrong. The Achaemenid Empire, that specific empire, fell, yes. But the Persian people and their culture, they were nowhere near finished. In fact, you could argue their story as a world power was only about halfway through. The resilience is just remarkable. After Alexander's empire crumbled, new Persian powers rose right from the ashes. You had the Parthian Empire, which fought the Roman Republic and Empire to a standstill for nearly 500 years. And after them, the Sassanid Empire, the so-called Second Persian Empire, was one of the two great superpowers of the late ancient world for another 400 years. The Persian story just kept going for another millennium.
And all of this really highlights the empire's true importance. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What if Xerxes had conquered Greece? What if a tolerant, multicultural, and centrally organized Persian model had shaped Western civilization instead of the fractured, democratic, Greco-Roman one? Just think how fundamentally different our world, our politics, our philosophy would be today.